Hello, everyone, and welcome to part one of our fifth panel interview in our Focus on Healthy Eating series hosted by myself, Lisa Kelly of Kelly Wellness Consulting Inc. Throughout this series, our certified master ambassadors and I will be discussing mindful eating and healthy weight management strategies that are sure to inspire and motivate you in your own wellness journey. It is an honor and a delight today to introduce our panel members. We are joined by Elizabeth Girouard. I'm not sure, Elizabeth, did I say your name correctly? Hopefully I did. Elizabeth is a certified integrative nutrition health coach, an educator, and a KWC certified master workplace wellness ambassador with our program. She is a founder of Pure Simple Wellness, holistic health coaching, and recently Zing Meals, a gourmet healthy meal delivery company. Her integrative nutrition training, coupled with her 15 years of business consulting experience, enables her to work with corporations and individuals providing seminars and lectures, individual and group programs. And her ultimate goal is to really help make health easy and achievable for all, and to help people feel great at any age. So welcome, Elizabeth. Miriam is a certified integrative nutrition health coach, a KWC certified master workplace wellness ambassador, an American Council on Exercise health coach, and a member of the American Association of Drugless Practitioners. Her mission is to inspire, guide, and support self-critical, multitasking, stressed out caregivers and help them move from burnout to balance through clean nutrition, self-care, and mind-body connection. Miriam advocates self-care as a pathway to live with less stress and daily experience more joy in our lives. So welcome, Miriam. Sabrina is a KWC certified master workplace wellness ambassador, a certified holistic health coach, and owner of Get Healthy with Sabrina. She's also partner of Real Workplace Wellness and has been an active health and wellness coach since 2013. And we have Kimmy Sakai, hope I pronounced it correctly. Kimmy is a holistic nutritionist, certified hypnotherapist, and a KWC certified master workplace wellness ambassador. She believes that small changes in daily habits will lead to big changes in your life. She leverages her unique combination of expertise in project management, teaching, nutrition, and hypnotherapy to help individuals and organizations affect positive and long-lasting change. And she's graduated from the Canadian School of Natural Nutrition in Toronto, Canada, with honors, and now works as a wellness officer at Expo 2020 in Dubai. So welcome, Kimmy. So welcome, everyone. And as I said, it's quite a delight. And for those who've been following our series, this is our fifth set of interviews. And we have two parts, as you know, to each series, and or two segments in our series. And today we're going to talk about uncovering your strategies. And for those who are in our program watching this, you know that that is one of the key modules in our program. And it really is going to behoove us to look at what strategies help us to eat more mindfully, help us to maintain a healthy weight, and help us to live a more abundant life. And so without any further ado, we're going to go right into our questions. And so I'm going to ask this of Sabrina now. So what are some strategies in your mind for turning healthy choices into healthy habits? And it can be strategies that you use yourself or strategies that maybe you've imparted to clients that you've worked with. So again, what strategies do you involve and promote for turning healthy choices and helping them become healthy habits?
Great question. I think repetition is key. Just like when we're giving something new to a child, often it's 12 exposures to that food before they might like that food. So for me, I remember my first experience with an avocado. It wasn't a particularly good one. However, with repetition and eating that food over and over, I love avocados and I incorporate them very regularly in my diet. So I think repeating that food and exposing yourself to foods that maybe you think you don't like, but trying them again and maybe trying them in a different way.
Right. Excellent. Great answer. Thank you. And Miriam?
I think it's important to know what a habit is. So then we can go into how to establish a good habit. It's a behavior, and it's a behavior that doesn't require any thought. And like Sabrina said, there are so many habits that we've done since we were very young because we don't think about it. And sometimes overeating is one of them. We, the issue of mindfulness, like sitting in front of the TV and just eating without thinking. So I think it's trying to first decide what is the habit that you want to change. And then, not just what you need to change, but why. The why of that change is what is going to help you actually make it happen. And write it down. Put it in a calendar. Like if you want to eat a piece of fruit from now on every day, just write it in a calendar and start ticking. It's think like you do with the kids. And repetition, like as Sabrina said, is really, really important. But having an action attached to that habit, that eventually it will make it so natural that you don't have to think about it.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Perfect. Great answer. Thank you. Elizabeth. Oh, you're on mute, Elizabeth? No worries.
I would say that I'm even going to step back. So often people think that they're eating or making healthy choices. And I think knowledge is so critical, because if you really know what is healthy and what works best for your unique body, then you can follow the consistency and the repetition and make the right choices. So, one of the mottos that I have in my business and I'm working with my clients is knowledge is power, but actually to take it a step further, acting on that knowledge is really the most powerful thing. Right,
exactly. I mean, knowledge is good, but if we don't act on it, it has very little value to us, right, and to others. And so, really, I love that. I love that you're bringing all these things from the knowledge to, the repetition that Sabrina talked about, and recording and looking at the what and why. So really, really good answers there. Thank you. Thank you. It's Kimmy.
Yeah, I'm going to go back to what Miriam was talking about in terms of habits, because I think a lot of our habits, as she mentioned, there's things that we've done since we were kids and we don't even think about them. For example, we wake up each morning and we brush our teeth. We don't have to necessarily think about how to brush them anymore, because as a child, our parents taught us how to brush them. So it's not like it's something that our unconscious mind does, our subconscious mind does without thinking, right? So we don't even have to think about, I have to do this, and then and when you're driving, do you think about how to drive? Not necessarily. You don't need to think about, I have to press the accelerator now and now. If you had to do that, it would be really difficult. So your brain automatically takes repetitive tasks and puts them into the subconscious and unconscious mind so that life becomes easier. So there's less points. And I think that's the thing that I work with clients when we do hypnotherapy is, what is the root cause of you overeating? And I think you don't even necessarily need to go to a hypnotherapist for that, but I think it's about, why do you overeat? Is it because you're stressed? Is it because you're bored? What are your emotional triggers for that behavior? So for different people, it's different things, different emotions that cause them to reach for chocolate or reach for that bag of chips. So you've got to identify what the triggers are emotionally before you can make that change. And once you've gotten to that point of awareness, then it becomes easier the next time to know, I'm not really hungry, I'm just bored. Or I'm not really hungry, I'm just really upset right now, and I'm trying to make myself feel better and not feel upset anymore by eating. So for me, it's always about why is the behavior happening, and addressing that in the first place.
Awareness, and you're absolutely right. Awareness, knowledge, knowing the what and why, repetition, turning actions into habits. I mean, they're great answers, and some I probably never really thought about myself or given a lot of thought to. And I think it really does help set that foundation for everything we're going to move into now. And so thank you for that, Kimmy. Great answer as well. So Sabrina, what are some, and I really like, and I think what's worked well in this series is really having the coaches both involve their own personal strategies and suggestions and thoughts and habits, but also to what has worked for you, because we'll probably have a number of health coaches participating in this program as well as facilitators or maybe as participants. And so it's always good to learn and share from each other. So both from your own personal and maybe health coaching, what are some strategies that have worked well with you in coaching others, or in making healthier choices, leading a healthier life, or even for your own personal life?
So really, the mindfulness is where it starts for me, and planning, thinking it out. If I don't plan, then I usually set myself up for failure, and I find that everybody's busy. That's kind of the word these days. So it's planning for success, and that can look a lot of different ways. But if you're not looking at that, I often equate it to a budget. If you're not looking at where you want your money to go, then it usually just goes and you have no idea where it went. And it's the same for food. If you're not planning what you're going to put in your body, you're just going to fill it with whatever is on that nearest corner, and it's usually not a very good choice.
Yeah, and can I ask you, while we're talking about that, excuse me, and I'll throw this maybe out to the others as well in a bit, a number of people coming into this program and other programs, for years they've been plagued with what we call that, diet mindset with the capital D, right? And those related habits. And we talked about this in other segments, that maybe they're doing a fruit journal. And I used to get this a lot as a health coach myself. And the clients would say, oh, I did great from, Monday, because of course they started on Monday, right? Start over Monday mindset. They started on Monday. They got themselves maybe to Wednesday, maybe Thursday. And it's like, oh, I blew it. You park the journal, you stop practicing. And it's like, all those good habits. So, okay, big deal. You didn't keep the journal up, but that doesn't mean we got to fall back into the bad habits. But it's because we've set ourselves up this way because of this dietary habits, dieting habits. I don't know. So anything there, like, have you worked with clients and had success in helping to, for lack of a better word, I call it deprogram, from that diet mindset and those type of habits and strategies?
Sure. Well, I think diet's gotten a really bad rap. It's kind of like exercise. I use the term movement instead of exercise, because when you say exercise, people roll their eyes back and kind of shut down. So I think diet, in our program, we studied over 100 different dietary theories, and that's not all of them. So I tell people a diet is the way you eat. It's that simple. So if you want to change the way you eat, we're changing your diet, and it's not an all or nothing. So what people might term failure, I call that information. So they ate the whole cake, they don't feel well, that's information, and now tomorrow they won't do that.
Yeah, so, information and self-awareness for sure. Excellent. I love it. Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Miriam, how about yourself? You can speak to what we just talked about of, shifting from that diet, capital D mindset into just overall healthy, mindful eating. But really, just taking a step back, what are some personal healthy eating strategies that have worked for you, that you try and embrace every day, or that you've had, a lot of success with your own clients?
Yeah, I think, going back to what triggered the habits as well. I think that personally, for me, one of the biggest triggers has always been stress, and obviously associated with sugar intake after that. A lot of my clients, obviously because it's my story, people who are very perfectionists and they are completely out of balance, working themselves crazy because of seeking that perfection result. So they get into this cycle of super stress, grabbing sugary stuff, and then not be able to sleep because they are, an overload of that. So it's addressing and understanding what the trigger is. So then you can actually go and set up in motion a way of dealing with that without bashing yourself as a failure, like Sabrina was saying. It's not about, oh, I need to do a diet free of sugar. No, I need to see why I'm stressed that I'm going for the sugar. And then I'm not sleeping well. Why I'm not sleeping well? Well, because when you go for a lot of carbs and sugars, this is what happened to your body that doesn't allow you to rest. And if you're not rest, the following morning you're gonna be,
Yeah, and most of us do, as we know personally and with clients, is that lots of times when we want to eat at night, it's just that we're simply tired and we need to go to bed, have a glass of water and go to bed. If you really need to, have a few almonds, as we talked about, refrain from the sugars and really good strategies. And, if you were to give me just one strategy that really works well for you, and then we'll move on to it.
Number one, talking about what you just said, one of the biggest strategies for me is to actually, I calendar in my cell phone when it's time to go to bed.
Okay.
And I get an alert, time to go to bed.
I do that too. Yeah.
And it's basically, don't watch the next program on TV. Don't go over the next page on the book. It's time to start getting your room ready. Whether it's, I have a little routine before I go to bed. I never have my phone by my bed. I have an alarm clock that it has a nice music. So start getting on that relaxation, because it doesn't make any sense to go to bed when you get the alarm, because you're not going to be able to sleep right away. So it's like time for bed. And that has helped me a lot, not to go into the overeating, over the sugar. And the other strategy that I have, and it's not related to food, but it's actually related to movement, and it's to get a habit. I was a dance teacher for many years, and I did some professional dancing. But then after my career changed and I put a bit of weight, it has been always very difficult for me to get back into that movement or exercise. And so I always come up with an excuse, or used to come up with an excuse. So now what I do is, in the morning when I go to work, I set up my leggings and my T-shirt and my shoes, everything in the bathroom hanging like if it was a version of me. So when I come back from work, it's waiting for me. There is no excuse now. There is no way like it.
Well, and it's a visual reminder too, right?
Yeah, it triggers the memory of how good I feel when I am actually in that clothes doing it. Yeah. So that is straight into it.
And thank you, Miriam. I appreciate that. Thank you. And one thing I just want to mention too, just as an aha, is that very little from what you're telling me, which is beautiful, even has to do with food or a specific food, right? Just think about it. It's all underlying strategies that help support us for mindful eating and healthy weight management. And that's really, it's a lot of psychology at play, and other habits that really sometimes have nothing to do with food itself, right? And when we take care of those things, food and the eating takes care of itself, right? So Elizabeth, what about for yourself?
For me, I would say the most important thing is to be realistic, take baby steps. I know if I look back probably now 10 years ago, I was really sick, and my integrative physician said that I needed to change my diet. I went whole hog, changed everything, and literally within 3 weeks, I was overwhelmed, and I, quote unquote, fell off the wagon. So I think when we look at creating habits, just incorporate one new thing. If you don't drink enough water, okay, so for the next week, add 1 extra glass of water. If you don't eat enough greens, okay, for the next week, add 1 extra serving, maybe just for lunch, or at lunch and for dinner. And I think that has been so successful with myself and with my clients and with my family. And I think that is absolutely so important. I think it was Kimmy who said that, small changes lead to long-lasting changes. And that is absolutely the motto that I have for myself and my business.
Right.
I think the second one that ties in with that is enlisting support. And I'm not saying that people have to hire a health coach like ourselves, but even if it's just a friend to go to the gym with, or a friend who you're going to exchange recipes. Hey, I'm making this soup tonight. Do you want to make soup? And we'll each exchange so that you have it and I have it. And that is such a big deal, because if you're out with friends who are all eating burgers and fries and, chicken wings, what have you, you're more likely to do that. But if
exactly. In our ambassador program, we call that having a wellness buddy. And we actually spend a whole program module on that is forming and how do we cultivate wellness buddies. Just because like you said, though, if you're going out, you want to have that wellness buddy on your side. So at least if the others are eating the wings, which, the odd wing, but, let's not make a silly habitual diet of it when we go out. So, that nice salad with a grilled chicken, maybe you and your buddy will support each other and have that, and the others can have the, less healthy options, right? Yeah, no, excellent. Really, really good points. Really good points. Kimmy.
Yeah, sorry. There's the prayer call in the background, so if you guys can hear that.
Oh, yes.
So there's a mosque very close to the house.
That's okay. This reminds us you're in Dubai.
Definitely in the. So yeah, I think for me, I agree with what Elizabeth was saying, that it has to be baby steps, because sometimes we as health coaches, we're very excited about everything we want to share with our clients, like. This is what we eat, live, and breathe. So it's very exciting. It's very sometimes easy to go to our client and be like, you could do this, and you can make green smoothies, and you could, so there's
and you put them in overwhelm really quickly, right?
Exactly. So I think I kind of learned that the hard way after a couple of years in practice, that sometimes you can just start with water intake, as Elizabeth was saying. Sometimes you can just start with if you're eating burgers and fries, then have the burger, but instead of the fries, have a green salad. And for some people, because we are not where they are, we have to be where they are.
Yeah.
So it's very important to put yourself in the shoes of your client and understand what their lifestyle is, who they live with, the kind of food that they eat, the kind of food that they have at home, what's available to them at work, and really put yourself in their shoes so that you can give them suggestions that are going to be manageable for them. And it's not just, it's great. That's, I think, really necessary from many different angles, because it's important from a compliance perspective, because if you overwhelm them, they're going to give up really easily.
Yeah. So if I may ask, what's one tip that you find has really helped your clients, or even yourself? Just one little quick tip.
Not eating after 7 or 8 o'clock. So depending on what time they go to bed, I find that that's something, it's, something that they can stick to regardless of what their lifestyle is usually. So I say, if you go to bed at 11, don't eat after 8.
Yeah.
If you go to bed at 10, don't eat after 7.
Right.
And I think that's a simple one. And then they feel the difference, because when they wake up the next morning, their metabolism is actually revved up and they're ready to eat a healthy breakfast.
If they are, and our body, as we know as coaches and for our audience, it really does need that restorative detox, if I can use the word detox period, right? To really clean our liver and everything else. And we really undervalue and underappreciate just how important that is. And that's one of my goals. I set goals for myself, and that's one of my fall goals, is to not always perfect, but to really start being mindful of not eating past that 8 o'clock and to get to bed earlier, which means I have to stop eating earlier. But no, yeah, great. Thank you, Kimmy. So let's move on now. And our last question for this segment is, and Mary, you touched on this already, is around eating triggers and influencers. So, and they could be positive triggers or they can be negative. I think most of us immediately go to the negative triggers, but it could be a positive influencers. And, or it may be that there's a saboteur in our life. We'll talk to that. So let me just throw out the areas of questions, and you can speak to whatever comes to you. The first one is, what are some common eating triggers that you or your clients often experience? And what are some suggestions for minimizing those eating triggers? It could be at home, at work. Miriam, you might want to speak to eating at desk, because I know you brought that up. Any other issues that are related to food triggers? So we're talking in this question around eating triggers, influencers, saboteurs. What are they? What are some suggestions for minimizing? And I'll put that now to you, Sabrina.
Okay, great. Well, I love the positive aspect, and I have a water bottle that I carry and have with me everywhere. So that's a positive trigger for me, and one that I talk to every client about, because I tell them it's kind of like my appendage. It goes everywhere with me. If it doesn't, I don't drink the water. Exactly. So that's a good positive. The other triggers on the negative side for most that I hear are they're tired, they're stressed. And so those two, so it could be stress from overload, it could be family stress. There's lots of different stress triggers. So identifying what the triggers are and then making a different choice, when you have that trigger. So if it's somebody in your life that triggers some emotion and you go for chocolate, just recognizing that and making a different choice.
Right. Maybe, at the very least, go for a dark chocolate rather than the crappy commercial chocolate we pick up in the grocery stores. Yeah.
Exactly.
Thank you, Sabrina. And I like that you started with the positive. We always want to accentuate the positive, right? Miriam, I want to ask you, because you brought this up in our discussion in our group, around the eating at the desk. If you want to speak to that, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. And some triggers that work.
I think that it's very important to understand that sitting, is the new smoking, as they say.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are at your desk for 8 hours a day, you're probably spending most of your day there, to have those breaks. And
right.
One of the main breaks, I think, is your lunch break. And I see everybody sitting at the desk eating. I've done it myself many times. And it goes back to what I call the mind-body connection, and specifically in this case to mindful eating. If you are at your desk multitasking while you're eating, you haven't even realized that you ate your whole sandwich in like 20 seconds.
Yeah. So, and can I just ask, what happens to us then? And you can speak to this.
Sure.
We just whiz through that meal at our desk, or even at our table with the iPhone in front of us, and we're not fully attuned with attention and intention to the eating process. What typically happens to us a few hours out from there or later on that night?
Okay, so there are two things for me that happen. First is that your body never got your brain never got the signal that you're full. So you will overeat.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously, if you overeat, then you're gonna be feeling heavy, probably not be able to rest very well. But I think the number one issue for me is stepping out of your desk, even if it's just to get a bit of fresh air and sit outside your office, even if it's just sitting outside your office to eat your sandwich, you will become more creative. You will become more productive. You will have a bout of energy afterwards.
Right.
Otherwise, you will just be cruising through your day. If you go out with one of your coworkers, you will develop some social activity that otherwise you will not have done.
Mm-hmm.
And let's face it, a lot of the people in this era are very lonely. One of the reasons why they overeat or they eat, without thinking about it, is because they feel lonely, not because they are hungry.
Mm-hmm.
And people who sometimes have their lunch together tend to talk about what they're eating and sometimes share. And it does make it more. And, it takes away the feeling of loneliness a little bit.
And we talk about breaking bread together, and there are so many inherent values and benefits in breaking bread together, as you're pointing out there. Yeah, thank you. Elizabeth, what about for you that come to mind around eating triggers, positive and negative, or even if you want to speak to this, because this I experience a lot with clients is, and we talked about earlier, we're out, at a social, it could be a party, a house party, a restaurant, a club, whatever. And, they all order chicken wings, and you've made your mind up that, no, I'm going to have a healthy meal. Tonight I can have chicken wings some other time, but for tonight, but then, Sally Sue next to you, your best friend says, oh, come on, go on your diet tomorrow, right? Is what they'll start. Because the last thing you want to say is you're on a diet, because we don't want to use those words anyway, right? But if we say it, what happens is, oh, God, you're skinny enough. I mean, we've all heard it, right? I mean, we've all experienced it. We've probably even said it ourselves. Anyway, so what would you say to that around, the negative influencers or triggers or, saboteurs, if we can use that word, right?
Well, I think it's funny you asked that question, because when we were talking about positive versus negative influencers, I was actually going to mention the positive influencers is to surround yourself with people who think like you do.
Right.
So my answer is actually the exact opposite of the question you asked, because I know if I'm going out to eat with friends who are more health conscious, I am way more apt to make better choices.
Right.
And so that's kind of one thing. And then I think, there's always having different options. I think, as we talked about, if I'm a stress eater and I know it. Mm-hmm. So I know I immediately go for the chocolate, the sugar. So I have better choices around, and I have a strategy. Okay, if I need chocolate, I'm not going to deprive myself. I will have the chocolate, but as you said earlier, what will I have? I will have dark chocolate.
Right.
And if I need a crunch with that sweet, I'll have dark chocolate with nuts or something like that, because I know there's a bit of salt in that, there's sweet, and that is going to help my craving. And then the other thing as well is, you know, the whole 3-bite strategy. Eat it, but have 3 bites.
Right.
And eat mindfully. So it gets back to the beginning, which if you're eating mindfully, so often, I mean, think about it. You're at a party, there's a piece of chocolate cake. Oh my God, you have to have it. Often you have 2-3 bites of it and you're like, ugh, it's too sweet, or I don't.
Or you've had a full meal, and really, like my husband and I, we often share dessert, and he's not a big dessert eater, so I end up eating most of it. But I do love my desserts, and sometimes finding healthy desserts in restaurants is not that easy. But you're right, absolutely right. And I've coached my clients, and I forgot about that, the 3-bite rule, and then, you know, push it aside or ask for a box and bring it home. Like, you know, have the rest of the cake over the next couple of days with those 3 bites, right? So what's to say we got to eat it all at that one sitting? And to be honest, I don't think I've ever really thought about that. I think next time I've brought meals home, I've never thought to bring a dessert home. Interesting. I think I'll have to think about that.
And the other thing, when you're with people who, like you said, the first question was, you know, when they're making less healthy choices, maybe find someone and say, hey, you know, I'd love a few chicken wings. Do you want to get the grilled chicken or the grilled salmon and the chicken wings and share?
Share.
So you're not looking like the outsider. But I think, too, you have to be comfortable in your choices and say it doesn't, you know, I'm lucky, I'm gluten-free, so I get away without people pushing desserts and things at me. And they don't bug me about doing that. But, you know, if you're not and they think, oh, you're on a diet, you get all those points that you said, oh, you're skinny enough, or this, that.
Yeah, exactly. And Kimmy, and we'll end off our interview segment with yourself on this. What would you say to this question around the eating triggers, influencers, saboteurs, positive or negative?
I think a lot of it is, I do agree that the people that you're eating with will usually influence what you're going to end up eating. And what I find with a lot of my clients, especially here in the Middle East, is that a lot of them do say that my family really impacts what I eat. So, you know, most people here are here with their families. Right. And it's also like a cultural thing, whereas, you know, a lot of people that are living, they're Indian and living with their families, or, you know, they're local UAE nationals, they're living in large families, and the food is being cooked by the help, actually, here, especially. There's a cultural difference there. So it's, you know, most people feel like they don't have a choice in terms of what they can eat. And, you know, my advice to them is always, again, trying to find those substitutes. So if culturally your family or your culture, you eat a lot of rice,
what would you say is maybe it's that, but what would you say is one bit defining difference between, say, you know, what you experienced in Toronto as a Canadian and over in Dubai with respect to eating in general, or healthy eating, mindful eating?
Unfortunately, Dubai has a culture of eating out a lot. And food is really cheap, so people order in a lot, and it's a very work-driven culture. People have these services where a meal comes, like they pay a set amount, and a meal is coming to their door. So it's box lunches, box dinners. So even people that are, not necessarily making a lot of money, there's a box meals available at each price point, really. There's really that culture of not really cooking. People don't have a lot of time to cook.
With respect to how they eat or the portion size, and how would you say in Dubai relative to North America that you noticed?
Well, I think the portions are still smaller than the U.S. sizes, but actually Middle Eastern food can be really healthy, because, you know, you could have like your grilled meat and and salads is kind of the basis of their, you know, but it's when you start eating a lot of the bread is when it starts to get healthy, because hummus by itself, made with chickpeas, can be really, really healthy. And when it's homemade, it can be a very healthy snack. Carrots and, you know, with the different salads, because they have a lot of salads in their diet. But like in terms of what strategies I give them, it's just trying to find those healthy substitutes.
Right.
And if you have it at home, then you're going to eat it. And that's the other thing, is trying to have that conversation with your family about, hey, like I really want to get healthy, and I wish that we can be supportive of one another. Because a lot of people have a hard time having that conversation with their spouse or with their family, saying, I'd like some support in going on the journey. So I wish
and and that's a really good point too. And there's a really nice point to end off this first segment with is don't be afraid to ask for support. Whether it's family, friends, coworkers, just say, you know what, I would really appreciate you supporting me on my healthy eating journey, and call it, healthy eating journey, and take the D word out of there, right? And so that's a beautiful, beautiful way to end off. So thank you everyone for joining us today, and special thanks to each of you, our panel members. And we really hope that this panel discussion has provided you with some helpful tips to really help cultivate wellness and vitality in your life. Getting started is easy. Just simply pick one or two of tips, maybe tips shared today or in our other segments, that really calls out to you, and make that a habit, as we talked about. And remember, personal well-being is a journey and not a final destination. So be sure to watch the second half of this interview with our lovely panel, along with our other Focus on Healthy Eating interviews that will be hosted through our Kelly Wellness Consulting YouTube channel. Also, to learn more about our Workplace Wellness Ambassador certification programs and our Focus on Healthy Eating program, please visit us at kellywc.com. Till we meet again, stay healthy, stay well, and live your best life. Goodbye, everyone.